Hi, this is Janie Gianotsos. Welcome to the Upright Uptake. Today we have a triangle we want to talk about. You've heard about the Bermuda Triangle, a little bit of a scary place that people can't escape from down south of Florida near the Caribbean. Well, PR has a triangle of its very own, and our wonderful CEO, Paul Wilke, has named this triangle the Triangle of Dysfunction. And today I am super excited to interview our CEO, Paul Wilke, about this scary triangle and to figure out what can we do about it and what is it. So Paul, welcome today, and tell me, what is this triangle of dysfunction?
Thanks, Janie. Actually, the triangle of dysfunction is even scarier than the Bermuda Triangle. It's something I came up with actually during a sales pitch meeting, and I was trying to explain why companies need to work with PR people, or why there's a need for sort of an approach to PR that's separate from what they may be currently doing. Anyway, it's the triangle of dysfunction, and at each point of the triangle, there's a key stakeholder. At the top is the client or the company. In the one of the lower quadrants, not quadrant, but lower third of the triangle is the PR person. And then the other point of the triangle is the journalist. And the challenge there, or the problem where the dysfunction is in that triangle, is each point of that triangle, each person in that triangle speaks an entirely different language, has an entirely different set of needs. Therefore, its dysfunction sort of creates the structure, which makes it a challenge to either overcome or to fight.
I can relate to what you're saying. Everybody needs something different. And in PR, we're trying to balance that triangle, but we have our needs too. So we're part of that dysfunction, you're saying, correct?
Oh, correct. And I think absolutely. One of there are sort of two things I talk about when I talk to potential clients or even existing clients. It's the triangle of dysfunction. And then it's the challenge of PR people by nature. We're by nature, and I've said this before on the Uptake, we're by nature people pleasers. So if someone says to us, "Hey, can you do this?" It's like, yeah, of course we can do it. You whether you know how to do it or not, you'll run away and figure out how to do it. That's its own little dysfunction that we need to talk about another day. But the challenge, and this is where I discovered the triangle of dysfunction. And I'll use an analogy here. You don't expect the CEO or the head of a movie studio to know how to do stunts, but you need a stunt person to make an action movie, or to complete a process in the filmmaking process. And just because the two don't know how the other one works doesn't mean they're not a viable part of the component. And that's what we have with the triangle of dysfunction. Each point in that triangle is crucial to the success of telling a great story.
And so tell me a little bit about some examples, some things that you've seen and experienced in your many years in PR.
I experienced, and probably was a working case study for the triangle of dysfunction, when I worked. There was a company I worked at before I started Upright, where the triangle of dysfunction was in full effect. I was the only comms person, really. There's some marketing people, but I was the only PR person, and I was working in a company that was very tech heavy. The people around me, we spoke different languages, literally. They were focused on sales and the product and parts that I didn't understand. I was working on things that they didn't understand. And even the CMO I worked with, he was one of those old school sales driven CMOs, and he didn't quite understand the nuance of PR. So my challenge was, not only did I have to explain and sort of prove my existence in terms of what we were doing, but also, I didn't speak the language of the people around me. They didn't speak my language. So what I had a great PR firm that I worked with, and they were great. They were more therapist than they were PR firm in many cases, where I just needed them to sort of riff on ideas and talk about, does this make sense, or is this too hyperbolic? And And then the challenge I had with this company, the journalist, it was in a whole new space. They didn't understand the space at all. So we had to figure out how to tell our story to a group of people that didn't know, didn't understand, and didn't care about what we were trying to do. So you had me as the client, you had the agency, and you had the reporter, all trying to do different things. Me as the client trying to explain internally what the hell I did. The agency tried to sort of explain and extract what we're trying to do. And the journalists who were either indifferent to what we were doing or we weren't on their radar. So, I'm not sure I succeeded there to sort of smooth the edges of the triangle, but it sort of created the foundation for me for what we tried to do upright, sort of smooth the edges and recognize that we all speak different languages and to highlight what we need to do to overcome those barriers.
And so when you are in a situation, either as the PR client or the PR agency, or, I think you even have experience from the journalist point of view. So tell me, what are those warning signs? What do people need to start looking out for to see if they're trudging down the road into that triangle of dysfunction?
Yeah, and you make a great point. At any point in my career, I've worked at each point of the triangle. Warning signs, they show up early. If you're a PR person or you're in-house, you're in the client, and you're in an organization that doesn't understand or grasp what PR is. And again, I was working at a company where one day the CMO came to me, he's like, "Oh, you actually do a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, I would do a lot." And, I don't know what he thought I was doing there all day, but it was fascinating. So that's a warning sign. But the other thing is, are you, as a client, are you getting what you need from the agency? Are you getting the deliverables you want? Are they the therapist that you want? Are they the team that you can have an intelligent check-in call every week and you feel like things are moving, things are progressing? Another great example of a dysfunctional agency-client relationship is when an agency goes to a client and said, "Hey, we've got this great media opportunity for Forbes. It's a thought piece on 8 different data trends we need to see for 2024, but we need it by Tuesday. Can you write it?" And if the agency is, and I liken that to, a cat bringing a dead mouse, into the house and thinking it's a present. And it's like, that's great, but I don't have the time or the infrastructure as the client to come up with this. If the agency client dynamic is a healthy one, the agency is able to get that Forbes piece 80-90% there on the first draft and say, "Hey, we've got this article, this contributed content opportunity. We've taken a first swing at it. Can you take a look at it?" So that's a sign that the dysfunction level is low. And then the other thing is, the other sign is the agency and the journalist, the agency and the client, are they on equal tiers? One of the things that we don't often talk about with clients is we serve reporters. We, as PR agency people or PR people, we serve reporters as much as we serve our clients. They are equal audiences to us. Yes, clients pay us. Journalists do not. But without that, without that dynamic, it's sort of equal footing client and journalist, that dysfunction level is going to be, scale is going to be off the charts.
It is interesting too. I find that, within that triangle, the push and the pull shifts. So if you're in the PR role, sometimes you're pushing stuff out to journalists and it's not necessarily what they're interested in. You have to try to find a way to talk to them. Other times, the client has something really spectacular and the journalist is pushing you to get the client to talk more about it, which sometimes that feels easier in PR, but not necessarily, because if the client isn't ready or doesn't have the right things to say or doesn't like the angle the journalist is taking, you've got to balance all of that out. So it's constantly sort of this balancing act of, is it newsworthy? Is it not? Are we speaking the language of the journalist or the client, and meeting everybody's needs? And that's the key, because a lot of times clients think they have invented a widget that's going to change the world, and sometimes they have, but sometimes they haven't. So you have to figure out how do you make that interesting for a journalist, because you still need to talk about this widget and get some PR out there for that company. So it's a challenge. It really is a challenge.
It really is. And I'll tell you I think two of the most frustrating things as a PR person is when a client thinks they have something better than what it is. And they think, okay, hey, this is a great opportunity. Go try to get a story in the Wall Street Journal or Business Insider or even a trade publication. And it's not quite there yet, or it's something that a journalist is not going to be interested because it's too product launchy or it's too self-centered or whatever. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is the ultimate middleman position, when you've lined up the client, you've lined up the journalist, and you're ready for an interview, and you're waiting on the call for both of them to show up. It sounds like a little thing, but more often than not, it's probably one of the most stressful things we do in our careers, because more often than not, one of those parties doesn't show up for one reason, whether it's they didn't get the calendar invite or they got the phone number wrong, or it's just, it sucks your soul.
It does. Yeah. And it's so frustrating because you're the one apologizing for whichever side didn't show up. And
you're the true middle, you're the true middle person there.
And I've looked at my Zoom invite and I'm like, it's correct. The time is correct. Where are they? What happened? And sometimes it's an emergency or just miscommunication.
And to our credit, sometimes the Zoom link isn't in the calendar invite, and that's my fault. I've done that more than I care to mention, but it's stressful. And you see every now and then, like, a poll comes out and says, top 10 most stressful jobs, and a PR person's up there. And, so to people outside of the PR world, it's like, why would that be the case? But, we're not brain surgeons. We're not, thoracic surgeons. But there's a stress level, and, it falls into the first world problem category sometimes, but it's something that can't be ignored.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned earlier that when you were in the client role, that your PR firm that you worked with was a bit of a therapist for you. So I'm curious, what can PR people do, since we seem to be the ones on both ends of, the triangle, trying to keep this thing balanced? What can PR people do when we are experiencing these dysfunctions, or to prevent it in the first place, even better?
I think there are really three things. One is listen to both of your core audiences. By listening, you hear what the problems are, what their concerns are, recognizing that sometimes you're not there to solve a problem, sometimes you're just there to listen. The other challenge is don't be that people pleaser. Use that, fight that instinct. And a third, an extension of that, is kick the tires, ask why. One of the things, and I think we've said it on one of the earlier uptakes, is, when a client says, hey, we need to do a press release on blah, blah, I was like, I just tense up. And it's like, why do you think the press release is the thing that's going to do it? Let's step back and look at what you're trying to achieve, what you're announcing, what's newsworthy. And you're not going to be the people pleaser there, but you're going to keep your client from having egg on their face, and your credibility is on the line, because you can't take a half-baked idea or a half-baked concept to a reporter, because they'll say, this is not what I need, and they're not going to respond to your email. They're not going to respond to your phone call going forward. So it's your reputation on the line. Again, you're in that middleman structure, but it's your role to sort of smooth those points of the triangle.
Now that we know what it is, we know what to watch for, and we can do our best to be the therapist, the balancer as PR people. And I think from a client standpoint too, it's helpful. We have some other uptakes out there to watch about what makes something newsworthy, and, what do reporters need, and some media training tips and things like that are super helpful for the clients to work better with their PR firm, or if they're doing their own PR. So encourage people to watch those. They're free. They're on YouTube. You can find them on our website and on our YouTube channel. But so, Paul, any other parting words you would like to share about the triangle of dysfunction?
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight, I think in this sort of the last parting shot is the triangle of dysfunction, it's easy for us. We're both PR people. We're easy to sort of point fingers and blame the other points of the triangle, but it's not the case. That the issues of dysfunction, are firmly in each camp, in all three of the camps. The PR industry as a whole do things that are wrong. There are clients who are great, and there are CEOs who do know how to do stunts, to go back to my earlier analogy. But there are ones that don't understand PR. So we work with them. We try to be calling it the triangle of dysfunction comes from the heart, because I want to make sure that execs, journalists, PR people understand that the triangle of dysfunction doesn't have to exist. It just exists right now. There are ways to smooth those edges.
Comes down to clear communication always. I mean, That's why communication is in our title of our company, because it's more than PR. It's communication, good communication, clear communication. And sometimes we have to be brave, like you say. Instead of being people pleasers, we got to say, look, this just isn't newsworthy. Don't think reporters are going to bite this. What can we do about changing it up a little bit? Or can we wait until it's live? That sort of thing. So yeah. Definitely something to consider out there. So, Paul, thank you for sharing
Janie.
Your wisdom from all 3 points of the triangle. And folks, just want to thank you for watching, and watch our other Upright Uptakes if PR is something you're interested in. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.